Evan lived alone near an old forest at the edge of the town. His house was small and quiet, and his days were slow and simple. Every night, he repaired old radios that people threw away. It was a strange hobby, but it helped him stay calm when he worked. He talked to himself, not because he was lonely, but because speaking out loud helped him think more clearly. His voice was soft, deep, and comforting, even to himself. One night, something unusual happened. It was close to midnight, and the wind was blowing hard. Evan was fixing a broken radio near the window when he said in a tired voice, "Let's try this again." He picked up a small wire and adjusted it inside the radio. Suddenly, another voice repeated his words, the same tone, the same rhythm, but it sounded smaller. Lighter, almost like a child trying to copy him. Evan froze. He looked around his room. No one was there. He stepped outside and called out, "Who's there?" His voice echoed through the dark forest. For a moment, nothing answered then. In the faint distance, the same small voice whispered, "Who's there?" Evan felt a sharp chill run down his spine. The voice did not sound human. It sounded too clean, too echo-like, as if it came through layers of air. He grabbed his flashlight and stepped toward the old radio tower behind his house. The tower was tall, rusty, and abandoned for years, but it still caught strange sounds sometimes. As he walked closer, the voice repeated again, "Who's there?" This time it sounded scared, like a child hiding from something dangerous. Evan moved slowly, shining his light around the trees. The forest felt unnaturally quiet. The crickets had stopped singing. The wind had gone still. Even the leaves were not moving. He reached the base of the radio tower. His flashlight shook in his hand. He called softly, "It's okay, I won't hurt you." For a few seconds, there was silence. Then he heard a tiny sound, like someone taking a frightened breath. Evan pointed his light toward the old metal panel at the bottom of the tower. Something small moved behind it. A faint blue glow leaked from the shadows. Evan crouched down and pushed the panel aside, and then he saw him. A tiny alien child was curled up on the ground, glowing with soft blue light. He was no bigger than a house cat. His skin shimmered like liquid metal, and his eyes were round and full of fear. He looked weak, tired, and cold. When the light hit him, he flinched and covered his face with his small hands. He shook as if he expected Evan to hurt him. Evan slowly lowered the flashlight and whispered, "Hey, hey, it's all right." The small alien peeked between his fingers. His eyes reflected the faint light. He opened his mouth and spoke, but the words were broken, mixed with a strange echo. "Your voice," he whispered. "I follow." Evan's heart pounded hard. He knelt down gently. "You followed my voice?" he asked softly. The alien nodded. He pointed to the sky with his trembling hand. "Lost, alone, hear voice." "Your voice," he said in broken English. "Safe. Voice safe." Evan slowly reached forward. His hand shook a little, not because of fear, but because the moment felt unreal. The alien stared at Evan's hand, then slowly touched it with his own tiny glowing fingers. The instant he did, the alien relaxed. His breathing slowed, and his frightened shaking stopped. It was as if Evan's presence, or maybe his voice, made him feel safe. "What's your name?" Evan whispered. The child blinked, confused. He didn't understand the question at first. After a long moment he said softly, "Leary." His voice echoed slightly, like two tones blended together. Evan nodded. "Leary. That's a beautiful name." Leary tried to smile, but he looked exhausted. He leaned against Evan's hand, his glow dimming. It was clear he needed help, warmth, and rest. Evan gently lifted him. Leary was surprisingly light, almost weightless. The alien child rested his head against Evan's chest, listening to his heartbeat as if it brought him comfort. In a soft whisper, Leary said once more, "Your voice. Keep safe." Evan carried him back to the house, realizing something important. This tiny visitor had crossed the stars because of a single human voice. And now something else, something dangerous, might be searching for him. The night was no longer quiet. The story had just begun. Evan carried Leary gently into his small wooden house. The alien child felt almost weightless in his arms, glowing faintly like a tiny star slowly fading. Evan placed him near the fireplace where the warm light could touch his cold skin. Leary shivered once, then curled his small legs close to his chest. His glow responded to the heat, growing brighter little by little. Evan wrapped him in a soft cloth, unsure if it was the right thing to do, but hoping Leary would feel protected. Leary watched his every move with big silver blue eyes. He was scared, but also curious. Evan could tell he was trying to understand every sound, every movement, every feeling around him. After a moment, Leary pointed at Evan's throat. "Voice," he whispered. "Again, speak." Evan sat down beside him, confused but willing to try. "You want me to talk?" he asked. Leary nodded quickly. He placed a tiny hand over his own chest and said, "Safe when voice." Near. So Evan spoke softly, saying simple things about the room, the fire, the cold night, and how he found Leary near the tower. As long as Evan spoke, Leary's breathing stayed calm. His glow softened into a warm shade of blue. For the first time, the alien child looked peaceful. After some time, Evan offered him water in a small spoon. Leary sniffed it, then tapped the spoon with his fingers. The water rippled as if reacting to his touch. Leary took a sip. He coughed lightly, then smiled, a tiny, tired smile, but real enough to melt Evan's heart. Evan finally asked, "Where are you from?" "Leary?" Leary looked toward the window, toward the sky where faint stars glimmered. "Far, far," he said. "Small pod. Lost. Hurt." He touched his arm where the glow flickered weakly. "Crash. Land. Alone." Evan leaned closer. "And you heard my voice from the tower?" Leary nodded. "Signal. Broken star sound. But your voice. Clear." He touched his ear and then Evan's chest. "Follow voice. Follow safe." Evan felt a strange mix of wonder and fear. How could a tiny alien child, drifting in space, hear the small repair broadcasts he made from his old radios? It didn't make sense, unless Leary's species had senses far beyond humans. But before Evan could ask more, Leary suddenly tensed. His glow changed from blue to a pale flicker. His ears twitched like he was hearing something far away. "Leary?" Evan whispered, "What's wrong?" Leary's breath grew shaky. He hugged himself and whispered, "Hunters." Near. A cold shiver ran through Evan. "Hunters? What hunters?" Leary pointed upward, his finger trembling. "Bad ones. Take children. Like me." His voice cracked. "They follow. They search. They want my sound." Evan did not understand everything, but he understood enough. Something dangerous, something not from Earth, was looking for this little alien child. And they were close. Leary crawled toward Evan and pressed his forehead against Evan's chest. His glow flickered like a dying flame. "Hide me. Please hide." Evan looked out the window. The sky was dark and calm, but something felt wrong. A deep sound echoed in the distance. A low hum, like metal vibrating through the air. It was not from Earth. Evan knew it the moment he heard it. He shut the curtains and turned off the lights. Only the small fire remained. He whispered, "Stay close to me, Leary." Leary clung to him tightly, his small fingers gripping Evan's shirt as if he feared being pulled away. The humming sound grew louder, then quieter, then louder again. Like something was scanning the area. Evan whispered, "Are they looking for your signal?" Leary nodded. "Yes, they feel sound. They smell fear." He swallowed nervously. "But your voice." "Block them." Evan blinked. "My voice blocks them?" Leary nodded again. "Your sound different, strong, warm." He placed Evan's hand on his chest, right over the glowing center. "It protect me." Evan didn't understand how or why, but he knew one thing clearly now. This child trusted him completely. And if something was searching for Leary, then Evan had only one job: keep him safe. He lifted Leary again and whispered, "I won't let anyone take you. Leary buried his face against Evan's neck. "Thank you," he whispered. Human voice. "Save me." Outside, the strange humming faded, but not completely. It hovered far away, like a warning, like a promise that danger was not finished. Inside the house, Leary finally closed his eyes, holding tightly to Evan as if he found the one place in the galaxy where he felt safe. But Evan knew this peace would not last long. Something powerful and unknown wanted Leary, and would return, and he would be ready when it did. Evan woke early the next morning, his back stiff from sleeping in the chair near the fire. Leary was still curled up beside him, glowing softly like a tiny moon resting on a blanket. For a moment, Evan wondered if everything from last night had been a dream. The strange voice, the tiny alien child, the humming in the sky. But then Leary opened his eyes and blinked up at him with sleepy trust. And reality returned. "Good morning," Evan whispered. Leary copied softly. "Good morning." His voice carried a faint echo, two tones layered together. It sounded both innocent and strange. Evan smiled. "You're learning fast." Leary tilted his head, studying Evan's face as if every word, every expression mattered deeply. He repeated again, this time more clearly. "Learning fast." Evan gave him a small piece of bread. Not sure if it was safe, Leary examined it, tapped it with his glowing fingers, and then took a tiny bite. He coughed once, then laughed. A soft chiming sound like tiny bells. Evan couldn't help smiling back. He wasn't used to having anyone in the house with him. But Leary filled the room with something warm that had been missing for years. Leary crawled closer to Evan and placed a hand on his throat. "Speak," he said gently. "Please speak." So Evan did. He told Leary about his quiet life, about repairing radios, about how he had always loved the sound of voices even when he had no one to talk to. Leary listened with deep attention. His eyes shimmered brighter with every word. As Evan spoke, Leary's breathing evened out, and the glow around him pulsed slowly, almost like a heartbeat responding to the rhythm of Evan's voice. It was clear that Leary didn't just like Evan's voice, he needed it. After some time, Leary touched the old radio on the table. His small fingers traced the wires and knobs. He whispered, "Same sound. Stars." Evan leaned forward. "You heard radio signals in space?" Leary nodded. His silver blue eyes grew sad as he spoke. "Pod. Broken. Hurt. Alone." He pointed upward. "Dark place. No voice. No light." Then he touched the radio again. "But then, your sound. Reach me." Evan felt his chest tighten, imagining the tiny alien child drifting alone in endless darkness, scared and cold, holding on to nothing but the faint sound of a stranger's voice. It hurt to even think about it. "So you followed it?" Evan asked gently. Leary nodded. "Yes." Voice warm. Voice home. Evan wasn't sure how a simple radio repair broadcast reached far into space. But Leary's species clearly had senses far beyond humans. Maybe they could hear frequencies no human machine could measure. Maybe they could feel emotion through sound waves. Leary crawled into Evan's lap and sat there like a young child seeking comfort. He whispered softly, almost shyly, "You. First human I hear." Then after a pause, "First human I trust." Evan placed a gentle hand on Leary's back. "And I'll keep you safe." But the peace didn't last long. A vibration rippled through the window, soft at first, then stronger. Leary stiffened immediately. His glow dimmed to a pale gray. He grabbed Evan's arm tightly and whispered, "Hunters." Again, Evan rushed to the window and peeked outside. The sky looked normal, but the air felt different. Heavy, charged, like a storm building without clouds. "Are they tracking you?" Evan asked. Leary nodded with a frightened tremble. "They feel my sound. They find children with echo voice. They take us." His eyes filled with fear. "We not safe long." Evan swallowed hard. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a scientist. He wasn't anyone powerful. he was just a quiet man with a small house near a forest. Yet right now, he was the only protection this tiny visitor had. He knelt beside Leary. "What do they want from you?" Leary hesitated, then placed a hand on his chest right over the glowing center. "My sound. Rare, strong," his voice cracked. "They use children like me for war. Control sound. Hurt others." Evan felt anger rise in him, hot. Protective anger he had not felt in years. "I won't let that happen to you," he said firmly. Leary crawled into his arms again, pressing his forehead against Evan's chest. "Your voice. Shield me," he whispered. "Only you stop fear." Evan held him tightly, listening carefully to the house. The wind, the sky, but the vibration faded again, leaving silence behind. Maybe the hunters hadn't reached the area yet, but they were close. When Leary finally relaxed, Evan decided something important. He could not wait for danger to come. He needed answers: what exactly Leary was, how close the hunters were, and why Evan's voice could protect him. There had to be more to this strange bond, more than either of them understood. Evan stood up, lifting Leary gently. "Come on," he said. "Let's find the place you crashed. Maybe there's something there that can help us." Leary nodded nervously, but trusted him completely. He held Evan's shirt tightly as they stepped outside together. Their bond was growing, stronger than fear, stronger than distance. A bond powerful enough to challenge the stars themselves. Evan walked through the forest with Leary held close against his chest. The morning sun had risen, but the sky looked strange. Like something above the clouds was disturbing the light. Leary clung tightly to Evan's shirt, his glow pulsing nervously with each step, every few seconds. He looked upward as if expecting something terrible to appear. "Are you okay?" Evan asked gently. Leary nodded, but his small hands were shaking. "Pod. This way," he whispered, pointing deeper into the woods. The forest was quiet, too quiet. Evan noticed how no birds sang, no insects buzzed. Even the wind seemed afraid to move. It felt like the whole world was holding its breath. After walking for several minutes, they reached a clearing. Trees were bent outward in a circle, as if pushed by a heavy force. The ground was burned in strange patterns. Evan felt his chest tighten. "This is where you landed," he said softly. Leary nodded. "Crash. Hurt. Alone." Then voice. In the center of the clearing lay a small metallic pod, the size of a large backpack. It was cracked open, smoke stains marking the edges. Strange symbols glowed faintly on its sides. The air around it felt hot and cold at the same time. Evan approached carefully. Leary remained silent, gripping Evan's shirt. He seemed afraid to go near his own pod. And Evan understood why. It held memories of fear, pain, and loneliness. Inside the pod were fragments of screens, broken wires, and a small floating crystal that flickered weakly. Leary pointed at it and whispered, "Heartstone. Memory, signal. What does it do?" Evan asked. Leary moved closer, still trembling. "Hold sound. Hold life. Record what I hear." He touched the crystal with his glowing fingers, and the crystal lit up, projecting tiny waves of light into the air. The waves formed shapes, blurry figures, tall and dark, with long limbs and glowing red lines across their bodies. Evan's stomach twisted. "Who are they?" Leary whispered one word, fear filling his voice. "Hunters." The image shifted, showing a group of them standing around a device, scanning for energy waves. A sharp humming sound echoed from the projection, the same sound Evan heard last night. Evan realized these creatures were not just searching, they were tracking. "How close are they?" Evan asked urgently. Leary touched another part of the pod, and a map-like projection flickered in the air. It showed the forest, Evan's house, and a moving red mark only a few kilometers away. Evan's pulse quickened. "They're coming here," he whispered. Leary's glow turned a fearful white. "They sense me." They want my echo voice. I must hide. But Evan wasn't thinking about hiding. He was thinking about protecting. Something deep inside him, something human and fierce, told him that he could not let these hunters take Leary. This small child had traveled through darkness and fear just to reach a voice that made him feel safe. Evan couldn't let that trust be broken. What do they use children for? Evan asked, even though he feared the answer. Leary pressed a hand to his chest. Our voice, powerful, can bend sound, mind, energy. His eyes filled with tears. Hunters use us to break worlds. To make war. Evan clenched his fists, anger growing like fire inside him. They won't get you, he said firmly. Leary touched Evan's face gently. Your voice. Only thing they cannot sense. Your sound shield me. Evan didn't understand the science behind it. But he understood something else. Leary was alive because of him, and Leary would stay alive because of him. Suddenly, the ground vibrated, trees shook. Birds scattered in panic, finally breaking the unnatural silence. Evan lifted his head sharply. The sky above the clearing darkened as a shadow passed over them. A ship, sleek and metallic, glided silently through the clouds. Red lights scanning the forest floor. It wasn't huge, but it was deadly. Built for capturing, not landing. Leary gasped and hid his face in Evan's chest. They find me. They find me. No, Evan whispered. Not if we move. He grabbed the crystal and tucked it into his pocket. Then lifted Leary and ran. The forest shook with each pulse of the ship's scanner. Red beams swept between the trees like searchlights hunting for prey. Evan dodged behind trunks, jumped over roots. Slipped on wet leaves, anything to stay ahead. Leary's glow dimmed almost completely. Evan? I scared, he whispered. Evan held him tighter. I know. But I'm here. I won't let go. The ship hummed louder, closer. Trees crackled with strange energy as the search beam neared them. Evan reached the old underground bunker near the radio tower, a place long abandoned. But solid enough to hide in. He pushed the door open, stepped inside, and shut it just as the beam swept across the forest floor outside. The bunker's thick metal walls shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. Leary whimpered and buried his face in Evan's shoulder. Evan whispered in his ear, as long as you're with me. You're safe, and strangely. The shaking stopped. Leary looked up at him with wet eyes. Your voice. Protect. Always protect. Outside, the hunters continued searching, but inside the bunker, the bond between human and alien grew stronger, strong enough to challenge whatever came next. The underground bunker was dim and cold. Only a single emergency light flickered on the ceiling, casting long shadows on the rough concrete walls. Evan held Leary close as the metal door vibrated from the force of the hunter's scanning beams outside. Each vibration felt like a warning, a message that the danger was not gone, only waiting. Leary trembled in Evan's arms, his glow switching between pale blue and frightened white. They close. Very close, he whispered, his voice shaking. Evan crouched behind an old shelf, placing Leary gently beside him. I won't let them in, he said softly, trying to sound brave even though his own hands were trembling. We'll stay quiet and out of sight. But quiet wasn't enough anymore. The hunters were not simple creatures. They were machines mixed with living tissue, trackers built for one purpose, to find children like Leary. They moved silently, scanning the ground with sound waves that penetrated soil, metal, and walls. Leary grabbed Evan's wrist tightly. Your voice. Speak, block them. Evan stared at him, confused. My voice? How? Leary placed his tiny glowing fingers on Evan's throat. Your sound warm. Strong, break hunter scan. His eyes watered. Please, speak. I scared. Evan took a breath and began speaking softly. His voice echoed through the bunker in a calm rhythm. He recited simple words, anything to keep the tone steady. Memories of his childhood, stories he used to hear. the things he loved about the forest. As he spoke, a strange thing happened. The bunker stopped shaking. The vibrations softened. The heavy pressure in the air faded. Leary exhaled in relief as the glow around him softened into a calming blue. "See your voice. Protect," he whispered. But the danger wasn't over. Outside, the hunters had landed. Evan peeked through a small crack near the bunker's ceiling, his breath caught. 3 tall beings walked through the forest, their bodies metallic and skeletal, with glowing red lines pulsing across their limbs like veins of fire. Their heads were smooth and featureless except for a single red slit that scanned the forest like a moving laser. They walked in silence, their steps light but powerful. The ground seemed to bend under their feet. They were built for speed, tracking, and capture, not mercy. Leary pulled away from the wall and whispered, "They take my friends. Many. Never return." His voice cracked with emotion. "They want me next." Evan clenched his fists, anger rising inside him like a storm. "They're not taking you," he said firmly. "Not while I'm alive." Leary looked at him with wide, trembling eyes. "Why, help me?" he asked softly. "I'm not human. I'm not your kind." Evan dropped to one knee and held Leary's face gently. "Because you trusted me," he said. "Because your voice reached me when no one else's did. And because you're just a child who wants to live." Tears filled Leary's big silver-blue eyes. He placed his forehead against Evan's chest, letting his glow warm Evan's heart. "Thank you. Evan, thank you." Suddenly, the metal door of the bunker rattled violently. Evan jumped back and shielded Leary. The hunters had found the bunker, or at least suspected something was inside. They moved their hands over the surface of the door, scanning it with high-frequency waves that made the entire room vibrate. Leary clung to Evan. "They break door." Soon, Evan looked around for anything he could use. His eyes landed on the old radio equipment stored in boxes, long abandoned. Covered in dust, but still workable. He dragged it out and started connecting wires with trembling hands. Leary watched with confusion. "What doing?" he whispered. Evan tightened a screw and flipped a switch. "If they track sound waves, then I'll give them too much sound to handle." He turned the knobs until the radio emitted a low, shaking hum. Then he increased the frequency slowly, higher and higher, until it became a vibrating buzz that made the walls tremble. Outside, the hunters reacted immediately. Their red lights flickered. Their scanning beams broke apart, and they stepped back as if pushed by an invisible force. Leary gasped, "Evan, you hurting them?" They confused. Evan pushed the frequency even higher. The hunters staggered, their limbs twitching, their mechanical parts vibrating too fast. One dropped to its knees, sparks flying from its joints. But the victory was short. One of the hunters slammed a heavy fist against the bunker door. The metal bent inward with a loud crash. Dust rained from the ceiling. Leary screamed and covered his ears. "They angry," Leary cried. "They break in soon." Evan grabbed Leary and held him tightly. "Then we'll run again," he whispered. "I won't stop protecting you." And in that moment, surrounded by danger, fear, and trembling walls, the bond between human and alien reached a new depth. Not just trust, not just safety, but a promise strong enough to fight an entire species. The hunters would break through, but Evan would be ready. The bunker shook again, harder this time, as if the hunters were beating on the door with metal fists made for breaking worlds. Dust drifted from the ceiling in small clouds. The old light above flickered violently. Leary's glow flickered too, turning pale with fear. Evan knew they could not hide much longer. They break in. "Any moment," Leary whispered, his voice trembling like a cracked bell. "We no escape." "Yes, we will," Evan said firmly. Though fear churned in his stomach, he held Leary by the shoulders. "But I need to know something. You said your voice can open a portal, right?" Leary nodded weakly. "My echo voice opens Star Door, but only with Heartstone." Evan pulled the glowing crystal, the Heartstone, from his pocket. It pulsed softly, responding to Leary's presence. Leary reached for it with trembling hands. Without this portal not stable, the bunker door bent inward with a deafening crack. They were running out of time. Evan crouched down in front of Leary. "Can we open it here?" Leary shook his head. "No. Too much metal, too deep. Need open sky," he swallowed, "and need your voice. Your sound strong enough to guide portal." "My voice?" Evan repeated, shocked. "Why my voice?" Leary touched Evan's chest gently. "Your sound, warm, pure. Not like others, it connect to Heartstone. It make portal stable." His eyes shimmered with desperate hope. "Only you can help me. Only you save us." Evan's heart pounded hard. He didn't understand how his voice could matter so much. But Leary believed it, trusted it, and that trust was enough to push fear aside. Another crash. The bunker door bent halfway in. A glowing red slit, the hunter's eye, peeked through the crack. Scanning the inside. "We're moving," Evan whispered, grabbing Leary. "Now." He bolted toward the emergency hatch at the back of the bunker. It was rusty, but still usable. He pulled the heavy latch, shoved the door open, and cold morning air rushed in. Leary clung tightly to him as they stumbled out into the forest. The sky above them rumbled. The hunter's ship hovered lower. Red lights sliced through the trees. Evan ran, ducking under branches, sliding over roots, gripping Leary against his chest. The ship's scanning beam swept past them, close enough to burn the edges of Evan's jacket. Leary cried out softly, covering his eyes from the bright crimson light. "Almost there." Evan panted, aiming for the old crash clearing where the sky was most open. Behind them, metal footsteps thundered against the ground. The hunters were chasing them on foot now, fast, silent, deadly. They reached the clearing. Leary quickly placed the Heartstone on the ground. His fingers glowed with thin beams of blue light as he began chanting in his echo language. The Heartstone lit up, sending waves of light into the sky. A swirling ring of blue energy began to form above them, unstable. Shaking, threatening to collapse. "Evan," Leary cried, "speak. Your voice, keep it open." Evan stepped closer, throat dry, not knowing what to say. So he started with the first thing that came to him, the same calm tone he used every night with his radios. He spoke slowly, softly, steadily. "It's okay, you're safe. I'm right here. I won't let go." The portal reacted instantly. The blue ring above them steadied. The swirling energy smoothed out like water settling in a quiet pond. Leary's glow strengthened. "More, Evan, more." So he continued, speaking from his heart, telling Leary he believed in him, telling him he mattered, telling him no one would ever hurt him again. His voice grew stronger, warmer, and the air around them vibrated with resonance. The portal flared open, a window into a vast starlit passageway. But the hunters arrived at that exact moment, bursting through the trees like shadows given metal bodies. Their red lights locked onto Leary at once. They raised energy nets. "Ready to capture," Leary screamed, falling backward. Evan stepped in front of him without hesitation. He shouted, a sound filled with fear, anger, and determination. The shout wasn't just loud, it was powerful. It carried emotion so strong that the air itself seemed to ripple. And the hunters froze. Their red slits flickered, their legs staggered. The energy nets flickered out. Evan's voice, for reasons he still didn't understand, disrupted their systems. Leary looked up in awe. "Your voice, strongest of all." He whispered. "Go," Evan said, lifting him. "Get through the portal." Leary hesitated only for a moment, then pressed his glowing forehead against Evan's. "I come back. I promise," he whispered. Then he jumped into the portal, blue light wrapped around him. The Heartstone pulsed one final time, and the portal snapped shut. Just as the hunters regained control, the forest fell silent. The hunters looked around in confusion. Their target was gone, and the human who protected him stood alone. Breathing hard, heart pounding, knowing the battle was not over, because Leary would return. And when he did, the bond between them would be ready to change everything. Even the stars themselves. The clearing was silent after the portal closed. The glowing blue ring faded into nothing, leaving only the soft morning light shining through the trees. Evan stood alone, breathing hard, the echo of his own voice still trembling in the air around him. The hunters recovered slowly, their red slits flickering with confusion. Their systems had been disrupted, not by weapons, not by machines, but by the raw human voice of an ordinary man. They scanned the clearing again, but it was pointless. Leary was gone. The Heartstone was gone, only Evan remained, holding nothing but the memory of a tiny alien child who trusted him more than anyone in the galaxy. The hunters looked at Evan one last time, almost acknowledging him, then they turned and retreated, disappearing into the forest without a sound. Their ship lifted back into the sky, hummed once, and vanished into the clouds. The danger had passed. But the emptiness that followed hit Evan harder than fear ever could. He fell to his knees, staring at the place where the portal had been. The ground was still warm, the air still shimmering faintly. His hand shook as he touched the empty space. "Leary," he whispered. The quiet forest whispered back nothing. For the first time in years, Evan felt truly alone. He returned to his small house slowly, each step heavy, every tree, every broken branch reminded him of the tiny alien he had carried, protected, and spoken to. His home felt different now. The rooms felt quieter, the fireplace less warm, the air less alive. He sat at his workbench, staring at the dusty radios he once repaired every night. The same tools lay there, the same wires, the same static hum. But now they felt meaningless, because the one who listened to his voice was gone. Days passed. Evan repaired radios again, but without joy. He cooked meals, but without hunger. He slept lightly, always thinking he heard a faint echo in the corner of the room. Sometimes he woke up thinking Leary was still curled beside the fire. But each time, reality reminded him of the truth. Yet, something inside him insisted Leary would return. The promise the tiny alien made, "I come back," echoed in his head like a song he couldn't forget. One night, Evan sat outside near the old radio tower. Staring at the stars, he wondered which one Leary came from, which one he was looking at right now, which one he called home. The air was calm, the forest quiet, until suddenly, a soft vibration touched the ground beneath Evan's feet. Not the dangerous kind the hunters made. This one felt gentle, familiar, warm. Evan stood up quickly, heart pounding. He turned toward the forest. Nothing. He looked toward the sky, silent. Then, a sound drifted through the air, soft, small, echo-like, a voice he knew better than his own. "Evan." Evan's breath caught. He spun around, eyes scanning the shadows. There, near the base of the radio tower, a faint blue glow appeared. It brightened, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. And then a tiny shape ran out of the shadows, glowing, trembling, smiling. "Evan!" Leary cried, his voice filled with joy. He threw himself into Evan's arms with surprising strength. Evan lifted him up, unable to speak through the shock and relief. Leary hugged him tightly, pressing his glowing forehead to Evan's chest. "I return. I promise," he whispered. "See? I keep promise." Evan laughed, a sound mixed with tears, relief, and pure happiness. "I missed you," he whispered, holding Leary close. "I miss you much." "Much," Leary replied, copying Evan's rhythm. Leary reached into a small satchel on his back and pulled out a new Heartstone, larger, brighter, whole. "My people. Safe now," Leary said. "They hear my voice. And your voice. Together," he smiled wide, "you save us. You save many." Evan stared at the Heartstone in awe. "You told them about me?" he asked. Leary nodded excitedly, human voice strong, warm. "More strong than hunter machines." He tapped Evan's chest gently. "Your voice protect whole tribe. Not just me." Evan felt his throat tighten. He had never imagined his quiet voice could matter to anyone, especially beings from another star. But Leary looked at him as if he were the most important person in the universe. Leary held his hands out, glowing brighter. "You come with me?" he asked softly. "See stars? Meet my family?" "They want meet human who saved me." Evan hesitated, staring at his small lonely house. Then at the sky. His world had already changed, and maybe, just maybe, it was time to see what waited beyond the stars. He lifted Leary gently. "Lead the way," he whispered. A portal opened. Calm, bright, beautiful, not like the rushed one before, and together, hand in hand, a human and a tiny alien stepped into a future carried by a single voice, a voice strong enough to cross galaxies, a bond strong enough to change two worlds forever. The stars welcomed them home.